You're listening to iCannabisRadio.com.
Hello. We're back with the Hemp Connoisseur Radio. As always, this is David, and I'm joined by my partner in crime, Jason Roblard.
Hey.
Wow, that was so intelligible that you just came out with there, Jason.
Hey, definitely glad to be here this week, Dave. How was your week?
It was good. It was busy. You know, it's not as busy as it was since we're going into production. The magazine is at the printer, so I'm kind of in that weird holding period where I don't actually have as much to do, and that's a rare thing for me. So I'm kind of like not knowing what to do.
Yep, and we have a. Well, that's great, but I'm actually getting ready to talk to our...
Please do. We have a wonderful special guest in here today. Yeah.
We brought in Sean Hauser from, she's kind of all around, but she's definitely a great attorney here in the medical marijuana industry with McAllister...
Darnell and Associates.
But actually, she's in here today kind of going over some PTSD, so we'll have some questions, but more of a conversation on it. And she'll give us a little bit of her background here real quick to kind of... tell us a little bit about how she got into the industry, what her thoughts are, why she's doing what she's doing, and then we'll get in, and then we will be getting into some stuff that's going around the nation as far as some marijuana laws that are getting ready to be put in place in New Jersey, Rhode Island, and some stuff that's going on in Massachusetts. So,
and then we're going to talk about hempcrete.
And then at the end, we're definitely going to be talking about hempcrete. So, Sean, kind of tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm from Texas, and I came to Colorado for law school, and I'm an attorney here. I actually got into medical marijuana law kind of from the medical scientific side. I studied a lot about the benefits of medical marijuana for kind of more mental health disorders as opposed to physical. During law school and in college when I was pre-med, I thought I was going to be a doctor, and I did a lot of research on PTSD, and there's just a huge volume of literature supporting the benefits of medical marijuana for PTSD, along with the fact that the treatments available for people with PTSD aren't very effective, and they don't have that many options. And a lot of the states with medical marijuana laws allow for people to get cards for chronic pain and a lot of physical disorders, but they kind of ignore mental health, and I kind of believe it shouldn't really be discriminated against because it's an illness just like any other illness, and these people are out there fighting for us. And
sure. Can I ask you a question on that? Now, were you first attracted to cannabis as a medicine and found out that it helped PTSD, or were you first studying PTSD and then discovered that cannabis could help it?
I was more studying kind of mental health. I was pre-med and was interested in psychiatry and psychology, so I studied a lot anxiety and depression, which are really big elements of PTSD. And medical marijuana has anxiolytic effects and antidepressant effects, and that's one of the reasons it's beneficial for PTSD. So, and when in 2010, was the first time Colorado petitioned to get PTSD as approved for a condition for medical marijuana, and so I helped Sensible Colorado, who did the petition, and kind of got involved that way.
And I think that's a really important point that you just made, is that marijuana is considered an antidepressant through medical studies, but it's commonly referred by the opposition of it as a depressant. And, it says it can lead to suicidal thoughts. It's one of those marijuana myths that goes around. And I think that I just want to just point that out, that it is an antidepressant.
And people, you can really say that about any drug, any pharmaceutical. For some people, it's going to have a depressant effect or a negative effect or an addictive effect. And just because a drug has a potential for abuse or a negative effect doesn't mean it's a bad drug. It's different for everyone. But on the whole, it's very effective for depression and anxiety, and that's scientifically proven through medical studies and the endocannabinoid system.
So how did the petition go for the PTSD here?
Not well, which is not. It's actually it's been denied twice. The first time they straight up denied it, even though we had over 200 studies and a lot of veterans that came out and supported it. They did it again this year, and they denied it again, and they were a little more dismissive this year. Instead of straight up denying it, they kind of let the clock run out. They had 120 days to grant a hearing, and they just let it run out. And there's actually, out of the 17 states that allow for medical marijuana, there's really only 2 that approve PTSD as a condition for medical marijuana, and New Mexico's taking the lead there, and is, I think, more sophisticated in their program because of it. And in California, it falls under a category. I think it's serious mental or serious illness that it falls under. It's not a specific category, but actually in other countries like Canada and even Croatia, they acknowledge it and accept it as a very effective treatment for PTSD. And a lot of the studies have actually come out of Israel. And
right, I've heard of those. I've read those studies on Israel, and they said it helped with the military in Israel help cope.
And what is PTSD?
It's post-traumatic stress disorder. So, I mean, I guess generally it's shown by a array of symptoms, and most people, I think they generally include anxiety and depression, nightmares, stress,
mood swings.
Mood swings and difficulty sleeping, and which is one of the main things that medical marijuana helps with. And when you don't sleep right, that kind of comes with a whole host of problems. But it also causes you have a potential for drug abuse. You have a reduced quality of life. It's got a high suicide rate. There's 50 to 100 suicides a month, and that's just for veterans. That doesn't include other people with PTSD for other reasons. And we're sending people over to fight for us, and they're coming back with these huge problems. And there's really not a very effective treatment. A lot of the drugs, they usually use a combination of pharmaceutical drugs and therapy, and it's not very effective. And the drugs that they use are a lot of times the cause of, they're highly addictive and a cause for abuse, the anti-anxiety drugs and the antidepressant drugs.
Now, I want to cite this. It's very important, I think, the work you're doing, especially on PTSD in Colorado, especially because we're such a military state.
Right.
And there's so many ex-military here that could really benefit from this. Now, one thing I think I'm aware of, and I just want to see if you can, confirm that, is even in the states that do allow PTSD for medical marijuana, as an ex-vet, would I not lose my VA benefits if I'm taking, or could I not lose my VA benefits if I'm taking medical marijuana because it's federally illegal?
And that's a big issue with the VA, and they came out with something recently. I can't remember.
Yeah, I think they did also, and I think that they are now allowing vets to go ahead and be prescribed.
In states that are legal.
In states that are legal.
Okay, that's a big
marijuana.
step.
So it is a big step. I mean, they're acknowledging that, although they're not coming out and saying, yes, it helps with this, they have acknowledged that, yes, this does help. And not because you have PTSD, but because, hey, if you need sleep, the indicas will make you sleep.
Yep.
Indirectly, I guess they have the support. Nobody in the federal government wants to come out and basically say, we support you.
Nobody does.
They all have either probably spoke before or know a lot about it, but for some reason are banding together. I mean, it's incredible.
The problem is all this, the government, they'll deny in states. It just happened in Arizona. They did a petition very similar to ours, and it got denied, even though a lot of the Board of Health was actually for it, is that they'll say there's not enough FDA-approved medical studies. A lot of the studies that have been done with synthetic cannabinoids because they can't get FDA approval to do regular studies, but they cite lack of studies, and then the government's blocked every attempt to do a real study. So it's really a catch-22 for...
It is, and I think the missing part of this is that they're only studying synthetic marijuana. And the problem that we've learned in this industry is really the synthetic stuff generally doesn't work as well because there's a synergistic relationship within the actual plant, the flower, with all the cannabinoids, the way they're working. And when you try to synthesize that, you're actually working against nature, and those things do work together in the endocannabinoid system to work with the human body. And when you're trying to synthesize it, it just doesn't affect the human body the same way.
Well, and they're also not prescribing big enough amounts for it either, because they're subscribing you 5 milligrams or 3 milligram doses and things like that per capsule,
right,
or per pill that they're providing you. However, even the state of Colorado acknowledges that 10 milligrams is a dose, which, as in this industry, we all know that sometimes 10 milligrams doesn't do it, depending on the individual.
And it depends on your ailment. 10 to 100 milligrams could be what you're looking for.
Yep.
Well, but yeah. Sorry, that's what I was going to say. I forgot what my other train of thought was on that.
And he hasn't even smoked, folks.
And a lot of the drugs like Marinol have a lot of negative effects.
That's what I was going to say.
People have gotten real depressed on them, and a lot of physicians won't prescribe it, and it's not the same, and it's actually got a lot of downsides to it.
Some people get violently ill on it.
A lot of people, but they did do a lot of tests in Israel with synthetic cannabinoids and they had the same effect on the receptors and reduced nightmares, and 75% of people who weren't able to reduce nightmares through pharmaceuticals and therapy, and that alone's huge.
Yeah.
So.
Well, because the nightmares is one of the effects that can really drain on your body. I mean, you're waking up in the middle of the night in a cold sweat, and you can't get back to sleep, and then that affects the rest of your day. A lot of people are like, oh, nightmares or whatever. I can get away with that. I had nightmares when I was a kid. Who cares? But it's not the same thing. I mean, these kind of nightmares, when you're an older person, if you're having nightmares like that, it's something that's going to really terrorize you.
Well, and I think it's easy for somebody that doesn't have nightmares to go ahead and be like, they don't understand.
Yeah.
Because I don't have nightmares, and I look at it as, I don't, although I can say, yes, it wouldn't be pleasant to have nightmares, I don't understand because I don't have them.
And actually, the marijuana promotes neurogenesis, which is new cell growth, and it helps kind of get rid of old memories and promote new memories, and that's huge for PTSD. It has a big effect on the natural brain's function in dealing with information and stress.
That's my word of the day, neurogenesis.
I think maybe Dave just has some memories he wants to get rid of. Keep on smoking, buddy.
Yeah.
It affects your basolateral amygdala directly, which is...
Basolateral amygdala.
That's your word of the day.
It's the part of your brain for anxiety and emotional learning.
Gotcha. Well, actually, I think we're going to just take a quick break right now, and we'll come back with Sean to talk a little bit more about PTSD and the work she's doing, and then we'll get into some national news and some hempcrete. So thanks so much for joining us on Hemp Connoisseur Radio. We'll take a quick break, and we'll be back in just a moment.
Dixie Elixirs, the patient's choice for alternative medical marijuana treatment, brings you Dixie Botanicals all-natural topical therapy, including massage oil, pain relief salve, and our newest product, Dixie Botanicals Pain Relief Lotion. This all-natural lotion pairs beautifully with Dixie Botanicals bath salt for a deeply relaxing experience with no psychotropic effect. Like us on Facebook, Dixie Elixirs, or join us at www.dixieelixirs.com.
The law offices of Edson Maton and Matz provide criminal defense, medical marijuana defense, and advice about setting up and running medical marijuana centers, optional premises cultivation operations, and infused product manufacturing businesses throughout Colorado. With offices in Denver and Aspen, we can offer assistance throughout the entire state of Colorado. Give us a call at 303-831-8188. That's 303-831-8188. Or visit us online at warrenedson.com.
Let's face it, rules and regulations are complicated, especially in the field of medical marijuana. Let Medical Marijuana 101 help you get through the compliance process. We can also explain to you your employment requirements, your employees, and your business. But our work doesn't stop there. Our experience in cultivation ranges from the design of grow rooms to the diagnosis and resolution of grow problems. Visit us at www.medicalmarijuana101.com or call 303-388-7706. That's 303-388-7706. Are you a runner? Are you a runner who supports marijuana legalization? Run on Grass is a group of athletes actively seeking to change our marijuana laws. We speak the truth about cannabis, bringing the message through our feet to new ears. Check out runongrass.com to find out more about us, our events, and how to join up or how to sponsor a runner. If you're in the Denver area, please join us for runs or start a group in your area. Running not your thing? Any sport can do it. On grass. Runongrass.com. You're listening to Hemp Connoisseur Radio on iCannabisRadio.com.
All right, we're back. Thanks for joining us today. As always, Jason's in the room with me. And we have a very special guest today with us. Sean Hauser has done a lot of work to help pass allowing PTSD to be on the list of prescribed marijuana to be on the list of prescribed medications for PTSD. And so she's been a great advocate for the cause and has been really working hard on that and trying to get it allowed in Colorado. So Sean, I think the next question is. What specifically does medical cannabis do to help subjects with PTSD?
So I guess in the big picture, it relieves pain, enables sleep, normalizes gastrointestinal function, and restores peristalsis. It also helps make new memories. Physical pain, fatigue, and new memories. So the endocannabinoid system is the natural system in your body, and when you target the receptors with cannabis or synthetic, it reverses the enhancing effects of stress, and it helps reduce the retention of aversive memories, which is kind of an integral part of PTSD, and it mediates habituation to repeated stress, so it helps kind of do a fear extinction. It helps kind of get rid of fear.
Now, aside from using cannabis, is there anything outside of that they can do to help eliminate this? Also, with the help of cannabis?
Yeah, I mean, I think therapy is a complement to any treatment in mental health that's effective. Mm-hmm. A lot of times they will treat them with antidepressants and then anti-anxiety medicines like Valium. Valium, something that's pretty highly addictive.
Yes, it is, yeah.
They'll use anticonvulsants sometimes, because some people have epilepsy associated with PTSD.
Really? I'd never heard of that before.
Those can also cause depression. And I mean, I think there's really just not that many options for treatment for PTSD, and that's part of the problem and part of the reason for the high suicide rate is there's really not a effective treatment, and cannabis may be an effective option, and like you said, maybe not for everyone, but for a large amount of people.
Now, aren't there enough ailments out there though where PTSD doesn't necessarily have to be on the list, but like for example,
the symptoms
people have seizures on this. You know what I mean? So, and I know that is on the approved list,
right? But not everyone, and
right. But anxiety is one, or trouble sleeping. But
anxiety. I mean, a lot of mental illnesses are not on the list,
right.
Especially in Colorado. Anxiety, depression, not on there.
Right.
And there's a huge amount of studies with the anxiolytic effects of cannabis. The cannabinoid receptor in your brain blocks the effects of stress on conditioning, and it actually can act to reverse the effects of stress on your memory.
Right.
And
so in other words, it makes past memories less stressful to you.
Right.
It's something that you can like kind of view from almost a distance and deal with in a different way, as opposed to feeling like you're right there reliving that memory.
Right. And it promotes neurogenesis, so it also helps you create new memories.
Love that word, neurogenesis.
And a lot of pharmaceutical drugs actually inhibit neurogenesis.
Oh, interesting.
And
okay.
Yeah. And it has the anxiolytic and antidepressant-like effects are one of the most important benefits in it, and so neurogenesis word again, it promotes hippocampal neurogenesis, and your hippocampus is where your brain generates new neurons throughout the lifespan of all mammals, and your neurons are positively correlated with learning process and memory process and your developmental mechanisms of stress and mood disorders. And so the studies have shown that treatment with cannabinoids promotes neurogenesis and produces antidepressant and anxiolytic effects. And I mean, that's huge.
Yeah.
And a lot of doctors, I mean, there's a huge volume of studies supporting it. So for government to say that there's not is really just ignoring science.
Why-
And a lot of doctors say that based on its efficacy alone, it should be considered.
Oh, absolutely. And, you know, we know
PTSD.
for a fact, I mean, government's never been one to really pay attention to science that often. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
you know, we talk about separating politics and religion, and I feel like they've done such a job of separating politics and science sometimes that it's really sad. I mean, you look at some of the congressmen and senators that are on the science committee, and they believe in creationism and believe that the earth was built
Right.
9,000 years ago or something. I mean, these are the people on our science board.
And it's hard to argue
Yeah.
with people who are just ignorant of science.
You
because
can't, yeah.
You can't.
You can't.
And, I mean, even the American Medical Association's called for controlled studies of it. There's organizations like MAPS, which is the Multidisciplinary Association of Psychedelic Studies, that's been trying to get the FDA-approved study for cannabis and PTSD for years, and they keep getting blocked.
Why is it, though? I mean, why does the government keep blocking this?
Because
That's a whole show in and of itself.
I mean, it's the same reason they're not rescheduling it.
Yep.
It's politics bogging it down.
Politics and money.
The rescheduling is actually something that's going to be in the federal court soon. So
Yep. I can't wait for
that'll
that.
affect a lot of things.
Have you been following that pretty closely on the rescheduling? Now, what's your take? Do you think it's gonna happen?
I think I'm hopeful that it will happen,
Right.
but I think the reality is that it might be years away.
What about, I don't know if you've been following this, obviously we're the hemp connoisseurs, we always pay attention to hemp, but what about the taking hemp and not classifying it in the same category as marijuana? Do you feel like that, I mean, have you noticed that
Yeah, I mean, it's,
process as well?
the marijuana scheduled where it is
Well, it's,
completely contradictory to
it
science.
is, absolutely.
And I mean, that's the block to a lot of laws and legally to everything. And hemp certainly shouldn't be.
Yeah, it's not even a drug.
And that's, you know, a lot of the reason why Amendment 64 is good. I mean, not just for the hemp part, which is a huge part of it, but
Sure.
for something like PTSD, where this is one of the main diseases, and really a class of people are veterans who we should really be protecting, and they're in a state that's supposedly providing medical marijuana for patients with debilitating medical conditions that they consistently refuse to provide it for them. And if it was legal, then they wouldn't have to keep going through that hurdle.
Well, and I think that's a really good point. I mean, and I appreciate all of the work, the amazing work you're doing to try to get PTSD on that list. But at the same point, all of that work would be, all of the effort that you're putting in would actually not even be necessary if 64 just passed.
Right. And I mean, 64 is the big picture, is that
Yeah.
marijuana does have medical efficacy, and a huge medical efficacy, and a lot of the drugs on Schedule 1 don't. I mean, even what's the medical benefit of alcohol or cigarettes? I mean, there's not. And the
Nope, there
definition of the Schedule 1 drug is that it has no medical benefit. in
Yep.
it.
But I think that even when 64 passes in November, which I definitely believe it's going to, and I'm a big supporter of the legalization side of it, but there's so many people out there, I think, that won't partake in it.
Yeah.
Because maybe their symptom is not on it. So although, yeah, you can argue whether it's going to be as important or not, I think it is, only for the fact that you're going to have ABC person not partake in it because PTSD is not on the list. So I think it's still equally important to have it on the list, because now you're going to be helping out those people
I think it should
that
be on the
wouldn't
list.
anyways.
Yeah, it should.
So yeah, definitely pro.
I mean, I think these people should be recognized. They're veterans. They're out there fighting for us. We're sending them back here with a huge medical disease that they're going to be struggling with, and if we have a treatment that's available to them, they should be able to have access to it without a doubt.
Well, and it brings up the hypocrisy of the government and our candidates in general. I mean, everyone always, we support the truce, we support the truce. Oh yeah, you support the truce, yet the suicide rate within the military or ex-military is higher than it's ever been.
Right.
And
a lot of that's PTSD.
And a lot of that is PTSD. And yet, so you're telling me you support the truce, but you don't support a viable medication that's non-addictive, that's going to help treat their PTSD to actually keep them from committing suicide for being in so many tours.
Right.
And that's the hypocrisy of it. I mean, again, we watch these debates, and we're going to talk about those debates in a little bit because, I got to talk politics anytime I can.
Yep.
But not once was marijuana mentioned. And I was
Right.
really hoping
They're not going to touch it.
with a town hall debate, I was really hoping that somebody would ask that question. And you'll see the next issue of the magazine is coming out, and you guys will be on the streets next week, and you'll see the cover was very much speaking to that point, to the fact that it is like a hear no, see no,
Speak no.
speak no cannabis when it comes to their candidates right now, and it drives me crazy. We're talking about the economy. We're not talking about hemp and what hemp production could do for the United States as far as an export that we could create. And then again, when you talk about the economy, not talking about cannabis. But the more important thing in what we're talking about now is you're telling me that you love the troops, you're supporting the troops. And as far as I'm concerned, it's just lip service unless you really pay attention to taking care of these troops when they get home. And when they get home, it doesn't mean just supplying them with a job. I mean, and that's important, absolutely, but it's making sure they're in the right mental frame to be able to do that job now that they're out of the military.
Right.
And being able to cope with it. Just because you got them a job doesn't mean they're going to keep it if they can't mentally handle it.
And you read statements from these veterans, and a lot of them, they've never smoked pot. They wouldn't have otherwise smoked pot, but they realize it helps them, and it's not harmful, and they're using it as a medical treatment, but
Yep.
it's not even something they even considered before.
Well, it even goes a little bit farther than just having an ailment behind it, because growing up, we were always big hunters and things like that, and I know a lot of people that go out there and hunt, but won't go get their card because of the list.
Yes.
They're
What
afraid
about
they're
the
going
list?
to be on a list where they're not going to be able to get their guns anymore, and all of these sorts of things.
And there is no list for everybody out there. There is no list.
So go get your red card while you can, or wait till after November.
Well, we don't want you to wait.
Yeah.
Go get it. Support the industry.
So what's your take on 64? Obviously, it sounds like you're pro 64.
I think it's an extremely well-written bill.
And this is coming from a lawyer, guys. So
Yeah, I think it's a common misconception that as soon as it happens, you'll be able to walk into a store
Nope.
and buy weed if you're 21 and over, and that's not how it works. There's a 2-year window, so the retail part won't go into effect until 2014,
Yep.
and that means it gives the government time to make regulations. And Colorado's already had years of experience in trying to regulate the industry, and we're learning and getting better, and they have regulations that work, and they'll be able to develop them once it's legal as well. And I think it should be regulated just like alcohol. I think alcohol is the more dangerous substance.
Absolutely.
I think, there's no concerns. People are saying, well, kids are going to be able to get marijuana. Well, kids can't walk into a liquor store, and kids won't be able
No.
to walk into a center. And, if you think your kid's not going to see alcohol or marijuana in high school, then I don't really know what to tell you.
Right.
But, I think the part of eliminating the, criminal part for adults who have less than 2 ounces is huge. I mean, people don't realize the implications of getting a felony for a small amount of marijuana. It affects you, your job, school, everything. And how many people do you know that smoke weed? Do you think they should go through it, not being able to get a job because they have this felony on their record, or not being able to housing, or...
Yeah, we actually had an interesting conversation about that this afternoon with somebody who knew somebody who worked at Leavenworth Prison, and he went in there to do a tennis, it was like tennis pro classes they have tennis courts at Leavenworth Prison.
Yeah, they wanted to put together a traveling team and go compete
yeah,
against
a traveling
other prisons.
But he was going in there, and the person we talked to about, and I don't want to mention his name because I don't know if he'd wanted to be mentioned right now, but he was just saying that it's amazing with privatizing of prisons. They want possession people in prison. They want to get, the private prisons want more people for marijuana possession in prison because, first of all, they're the easiest prisoners to deal with. They're not violent. They're usually very good people. They just happen to smoke marijuana, so they got arrested for possession. These are the best prisoners you could have because they're not going to do anything wrong. They're not going to create any problems. It's just easy for them. So it makes it easier for the prison to operate, and it's cheaper for them to operate with those guys. So as a privatized prison, and this is a conversation we could really get into. It's a big one, but it's just I know it is, but just to touch on, when you're making profit off other people's pain, there's an issue.
And the fact that these people that are in there are productive members of society is huge. This individual that we're speaking about was a professional athlete, right?
Yep.
And just so happened to get busted, and it's like wrong place at the wrong time. But for a product that seems to be getting decriminalized all over the nation right now, it does not make sense.
Yeah.
I'd be curious to say what they say. 50% of all the people that were in that prison
were
in there for possession of drugs. But
it wasn't just marijuana.
It wasn't just marijuana.
Was possession, but the large majority of them
were for marijuana. And the next question out was, what happens to those people if it legalizes? If the federal government recognizes that this is not a bad substance and then actually or changes the schedule of it, what happens to those people? Do they get out?
Mm-hmm.
It's a big question.
If you're just in for marijuana, I think if you're in for marijuana combined with something else, which I think a lot of people are, then it's probably a different story.
It is. If there's violent crime, but if it was just possession, I would like to say that they should all be released, at least in a timely manner. Maybe you can't just release thousands of people at once. I don't know what the logistics would be of that, but those people need to go and get out of prison. Especially if they're productive members. Now, we did just go on a little bit of a tangent there. We were talking about PTSD. We actually have to go to our break, and I don't know, can you stay with us a little longer, Sean? It's up to you. I know you had some other... Sean is actually being very nice about giving us her time. She's an incredibly busy person. She's a lawyer. So luckily we're not having to pay for this hour that she's spending with us today. But
she already said the bill's in the mail.
All right. Well, we'll be back, and we'd love to have Sean join us in the conversation that we're going to be talking about some national news for medical marijuana, and then we'll be getting into my favorite subject, the best use of hemp for a house you could ever have. So we'll be back with you in just a moment. Thanks for listening.
Let's face it, rules and regulations are complicated, especially in the field of medical marijuana. Let Medical Marijuana 101 help you get through the compliance process. We can also explain to you your employment requirements, your employees, and your business. But our work doesn't stop there. Our experience in cultivation ranges from the design of grow rooms to the diagnosis and resolution of grow problems. Visit us at www.medicalmarijuana101.com or call 303-388-7706. That's 303-388-7706. Are you a runner? Are you a runner who supports marijuana legalization? Run on Grass is a group of athletes actively seeking to change our marijuana laws. We speak the truth about cannabis, bringing the message through our feet to new ears. Check out runongrass.com to find out more about us, our events, and how to join up or how to sponsor a runner. If you're in the Denver area, please join us for runs or start a group in your area. Running not your thing? Any sport can do it on grass. runongrass.com.
Are you a medical marijuana patient or interested in finding out how to become one? Contact Mile High Wellness, where your care is our concern. Conveniently located on Hamden and Tamarack in the Whole Foods parking lot behind Proof of the Pudding, Mile High Wellness offers a wide variety of edibles, hashes, and some of Colorado's top strains. Mile High Wellness, where your care is our concern. 3525 South Tamarack, Suite 110, on the corner of Hamden and Tamarack. 720-382-8516. Mile High Wellness, where your care is our concern.
The Hemp Connoisseur is Colorado's premier guide to hemp culture. Our mission is to elevate the image of the medical cannabis and hemp industries to create widespread acceptance of the cannabis sativa plant. You can find the latest issue of the Hemp Connoisseur at more than 200 7-Elevens, your favorite dispensary, MMJ doctor offices, and tattered covered bookstores. Do you consider yourself a cannabis connoisseur? Then come be a part of the Hemp Connoisseur's first Cannabis Championship. Visit us at thcmag.com for info on how to sample the best medicine Colorado has to offer. Yeah, all right. We are back. And as always, Jason and myself are here with the lovely Sean Hauser. And so we're going to go into a little bit of national news. So Jason's going to take that away.
All right. So as of every week, we try to cover a new area of just different stuff that's going on, whether it be in the positive or the negative of the of the industry.
So do you have good news and bad news?
Well, that's still to be determined, I guess, however you want to look at this. However, Massachusetts is looking to decriminalize and legalize medical marijuana up there.
That's right. That's my home state.
That's Dave's backyard, so
Yep.
he's happy, and I'm sure his folks are happy. What's your dad's name again?
Paul.
Paul?
Yeah.
Paul, I know you're listening right now, so hey, Paul.
Yeah. Say hello to all my fellow massholes out there.
The massholes.
Yeah.
But it looks like Massachusetts is supposed to be the 18th U.S. state to legalize medical marijuana.
I'm surprised they're coming late to the party, actually.
Well,
Yeah.
they're earlier than the other.
That is
rest
true.
Of the,
That is true.
The rest of the country, right?
18's a lot, though. People don't think about
People don't realize 18 is a lot. I mean, we're at just to be. We're going to get into this, but
Yep.
just to reiterate it, we've said it before. We have 17 states that are legal right now, plus DC. I know DC doesn't count as a state, but we're at 17 states. We have 7 states looking to legalize medical marijuana this election cycle. If let's just say they will. Let's say all 7 pass. If all 7 pass, that puts us at 24 states. 24 states. 2 more states legalize medical marijuana. We're in the majority, and I don't think the federal government has any other choice but to allow it.
Well, and on top of that, you're going to potentially 3 states that will completely 100% legalize.
Yes.
And regulate it like alcohol and tobacco.
That's
so,
right.
Oregon, Washington, and Colorado. So, shout out to you guys out there. You're doing a great job.
Mm-hmm.
So with the 18th state looking to legalize with Massachusetts, when I read this, I couldn't even believe it. Is that there are 6 communities in Massachusetts already going to ban medical marijuana.
It is a preemptive ban.
And it hasn't even been legalized there yet. So maybe, I don't know the 6 communities
Please
up there.
say
And
it.
I don't know how big they are. It's Hudson, Malden, Melrose,
Melrose or Melrose?
Melrose,
Thank you.
Reading.
Reading, my town. I'm from Reading, Mass. My town is looking to ban dispensaries.
All right, Reading, my bad.
I'm really upset right now.
Saugus.
Yeah, you said that one right.
Yep, thank you. And Wakefield.
Reading, this is like my county. A lot of these are my county. Sorry, Dad, you're going to have to drive out of the city to get your medical marijuana when it's time.
But just because you drive back doesn't mean that it's going to be illegal. You just
Right.
won't be able to purchase in these towns.
I can't believe it. I'm so upset.
So
Well, that's okay. Reading didn't have a movie theater for about like 20 years, not until after I left. So they're a little behind the curve.
Yep.
Great town, though. Great town.
And however, we know how the nonprofits work, and they don't seem to be working very well, which is why more of them are moving away from the nonprofit model.
Well, some of them do very well. If you want to talk about Harborside Wellness, they're doing very well.
If you want to go that route,
Yeah,
for sure. We
yeah.
can. That's a whole nother show.
Yes,
right
it
there
does.
in
It's a
itself.
whole other show, too. We have a lot of shows coming up.
Massachusetts is going to allow up to 35 nonprofit dispensaries to distribute cannabis.
We already covered this a couple of shows ago.
Yeah.
Big mistake.
Yeah,
Big mistake. 35 is not enough, people. It's not enough. Denver alone has 100 plus, over 100. Boulder had at one point over 35. They're now at, what are they at? About like 20? That's one city. And you're talking about 35 for the state of Massachusetts? That's a mess.
Well, New Mexico only has a handful of them.
Yes, they do.
So
Although
what,
New
6
Mexico
or
is
7 or something like that?
not quite as populated as Massachusetts.
Well, that's true. However, you got to go. You got to drive a long distance to get there.
A lot
So,
of driving.
but the reason in Massachusetts towns are concerned about the possibility of increased crime. Okay, well, multiple
Proven not.
studies show that that's not the case.
Yep.
And I wish that they would definitely. I wonder if they've even looked at.
No.
Colorado.
You guys got to understand. I mean, the people who are against the legalization and have these fears, they don't have any base of knowledge.
Right. Increased crime is the easy go-to. for
It's
sure.
the easy go-to.
And
Increased
the
crime.
access to kids, and neither of those have
It's
happened.
been actually
and it's
statistically
decreased.
proven. It's
Yeah.
decreased.
Well, and I was listening to the radio this afternoon, and Hickenlooper and some other probably important person on there was they said that the use of marijuana is up by the usage is up by 65% nationally. Well, that's the key word right there. Nationally, it may be, but in the states that have legislation in place to decriminalize or legalize medical marijuana, is that it's down in every single state. The usage is down because there's legislation in place.
Regulation works.
And And okay, yes, usage is probably up in those states, but not by minors.
No, but
And
not
that-
by minors.
just to be
Minor
very,
use,
very
that's
clear
clear
on it.
Minor
So-
usage is down in every state that is regulated.
But they don't get clear like that. They're like, usage is up. Okay, duh. It's
Yeah, and maybe there's something to like minors wanting to do something that's illegal versus if it's regulated. Like, would you be more prone to smoke a cigarette right now if it was illegal? Maybe.
Absolutely. Well, and that's a great point you make, Sean, because the gateway drug argument does not work in regulated states. And I'm so tired of hearing this gateway drug argument. Anytime you guys are out there, you talk about the gateway drug, you say, okay, you don't want to know why they can use that argument for gateway drugs is because if I'm buying marijuana illegally from a dealer, that dealer probably has
Right.
access to other drugs.
Right.
You know, I mean, it's like saying if I go to a liquor store, he's just selling me liquor. I'm not going to be able to get a drug from him. He doesn't have access to it. I'm buying it legally. You can't get moonshine from a liquor store.
Right.
You know, just so it's the same thing. The gateway drug, it's the drug war that becomes the gateway.
Right.
You know, and I think that's an important point
Yeah,
that
and
needs
it's
to be
the
made.
access to having to go to the back alley to get your marijuana where
Exactly.
you're going to find trouble.
Well, and they're finding also that with all the studies is that the people that actually smoke medical marijuana, the ages increase. So like in Colorado, it's 41 years old. California, it's 32 years old. Okay. And I don't know why. Maybe there's younger people in California. I'm not really too sure. But 41 is not a minor.
No.
Like these are adults with disposable income,
Yep.
probably contribute to society pretty well,
Yep. Pay
and
their
just so
taxes.
happen to smoke marijuana.
And maybe choose to do that instead of drinking or whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
getting
I-
behind the wheel
Reason
drunk
that
and going and
they're-
killing somebody.
Yep.
They're adults who, can make their own intelligent decision about what they
Well-
want to put in their body.
Well, there was a
Exactly.
study not too long ago about people that smoke medical marijuana decrease the number of fatalities
Yeah,
from
it's true.
from drunk driving.
9%. And
That's what it was,
Regulated
9%, yeah.
states across the board, alcohol deaths have gone down 9% by marijuana regulated states.
Right.
And so, I mean, you can make whatever correlation you want from that. The correlation I make from it is, well, less people are drinking and driving. More people are actually medicating with marijuana. They're not drinking as much.
Right.
And they're being more responsible with their driving.
It's
Yeah,
true.
and the other thing in Massachusetts is, although it looks like it's going to pass over there, I don't know why they did this. However, they didn't even put a limit on the amount of marijuana somebody can have. And maybe,
They didn't?
and I'm just assuming that they did that so that if somebody gets caught with a gram or whatever, they could take them to jail as having too much medical marijuana on them.
Wait, they didn't. Are you sure about that?
Yep, it says right here.
There's
Yep.
no limit on how much they can consume.
It says they didn't put a limit on it.
Well, if they didn't put a limit on it, then they can't say you're arrested
Yeah,
for a gram.
you couldn't-
That means
Well,
you
I
could, that
know,
means
you
you can
can
carry
carry
4
both.
ounces on you then, basically, or
Well,
whatever
or
you
a
want.
pound, like
Or
in
a
some
pound.
states.
Like yeah, well, that some states they do go a little overboard, I think. On
But I
the
mean,
amount.
yeah, there's no limit on how much alcohol I can buy, but that doesn't mean I'm
That is
buying
true.
cases of vodka by the day, I think.
You know, but that is a good point. You're right. If I drove around with a bunch of cases of vodka, they're not going to stop
And if
me.
it was legal everywhere, no one would have the incentive to sell and distribute on the black market. You just
Exactly.
wouldn't need to. I mean, I'm not going
Exactly.
to buy black market weed in Colorado when I can go to the store. Like,
No,
I'm not buying
and it's better,
vodka
probably.
from someone's backyard either.
I mean, I guess the closest thing you could say, I mean, if it gets to the legal point, is because we are saying as soon as 64 passes, people can grow in their homes. So it's just the dispensary model. And I just want to make a point of that, actually. Just because 64 passes, because we're going to go like it's going to pass, just because 64 passes does not mean don't get your red card for the next year.
Right.
We need you guys to support the medical marijuana industry so those guys are around when the recreational does open up.
Well, and-
so please keep your red
And
cards
it's
up to
actually
date.
beneficial. I mean, you can go and say, I'm anxious or I have this kind of pain or, cataracts or whatever. And there's people that can tell you which strain is best for you. And your caregiver or designated center can be growing something that's right for you.
Yep.
And that's,
Yep. Or high CBD strains. Nobody's going
Right.
to be growing that at home.
No.
And you might want a very high end CBD strain to really help you with whatever ailment and keep a clear head. And you're just not going to be able to grow that at home as
yeah.
easily.
And,
And
a lot
if
of
you
people don't
do-
have time or don't know how
No,
to grow as
it's
well as
not
the
easy.
experts. Yeah.
I won't grow because it's just too hard. Just
Yeah.
like I like
it's
to
too
have a good
expensive.
beer, but I'm not brewing beer at home.
Yeah. I'd like to grow tomatoes and all sorts of things, but
Right.
I don't have time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Just put your grow lights on a timer. Come on. All right. However, so that's some of the stuff going on in Massachusetts. Now for good news.
Yeah, what's the good news?
New Jersey and Rhode Island, finally poised to open.
Nice.
So just to let you guys know, those are 2 medical marijuana friendly states.
They are.
And so I guess out of the 17 that were there, maybe only 15 you would be able to buy your product
Something
from.
that's good
true.
about the laws in, I think, Connecticut, Rhode Island, these new states, is that they're having more civil protection. Like,
They
you
are.
can't discriminate against a tenant, or more protections in family law and housing, and in employers. You can't, fire someone on the basis of being a medical marijuana patient, whereas
Right.
the older states like us in California, we don't, we didn't have those protections, and that's a big problem for
Yeah.
people in the employment world and the housing world. And these states have really had the benefit from learning where we kind of missed things and went wrong, and they've provided those protections. And I think we're going to see a lot of positive movement in the laws that way.
I agree. I think that's a really good point, Sean, is the civil liberties are not in Colorado as high as they should be. And we have been fighting about that since regulations started. There's been these cases coming up. And maybe this is one of those instances where those states have looked at us and said, oh, wait a minute. They had to deal with this little bit of a mess and figure that out as they went along. Let's not do that. And I wish the states did a little bit more looking at what we're doing in Colorado on the free market side. I think it's more important to do the free market than the nonprofit. I think that there should be more money going back to the
that's
government.
what we really learned from California and how that went wrong.
Yep.
And I think that's what really benefited us, is we had that model to learn their
Absolutely.
mistakes.
Well, and some of
Absolutely.
the stuff that actually progressed it here on the East Coast, which is we're an ancillary business in this industry, and that's one of the things that they said in the document I'm holding right here, is that's one thing that pushed it forward, is because they didn't only look at the medical marijuana centers themselves. They looked at the plumbers, the electricians,
Yep.
the hydroponic stores. Like, they looked at how many jobs this industry can create.
Yeah,
and I
lots.
think so many states don't look at that. They're like, okay, marijuana, bad, shut it down. Well, when you do that, there's so many people, thousands and thousands and thousands of people outside of this industry that are directly related to the industry itself that could lose their job by this industry going out of business. And that's what Rhode Island and New Jersey took a look at, and that's why they're really pushing forward. And the governor's had a little bit of something to do with
And
that.
tax revenue and in general. And I mean, everyone should be on the side of money and increase tax revenue. And
Yep.
the great thing about 64 is all the money goes to education in schools. And,
Yes, it does. I think it was a great design by 64 to do that.
Which still has to be voted in as far as how much of it, or the percentage of the tax that's actually going to equal up to the 40 million.
It's at least the first 40 million.
Right.
which is a huge,
Huge amount.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
so before it goes to anything else, it does go to the education. Then after that, I think that's what they're debating is, okay, after the 40 million, where does it go? And the estimates are that they'll hit that 40 million by the second quarter of every year. So I think it's, I think it's a big boon. I think, again, as an ancillary business, one of the things that we know is, and I'm very much looking forward to this passing, and I know we're going to have some federal fights, but, there's a ripple effect, and I think it's a really good point about the jobs that can be created by legalizing it, but there's also that ripple effect. Every time the federal government comes in and shuts down dispensaries, it creates fear within the states that are regulated. There's a ripple effect not just amongst the dispensaries and what they're dealing with, but amongst every other ancillary business that has built around, and we're one of those. And we've created our business based on being
The
part of
success
this,
of
the
medical marijuana.
success of medical marijuana. And then, when it comes to advertisements for the hemp connoisseur, our pages fluctuate quite a bit sometimes because, people, while they love the magazine and want to advertise with us, they're worried about, oh my God, all these taxes are coming in. And oh, wait, they're not letting me write off any taxes like any other business would be able to. And so now I can't afford to advertise because I can't use my advertising as a tax deduction.
However, we have started going after non-medical marijuana businesses to help it out.
We have started going after non-medical.
Because there are companies
Great
out there that are
segue.
very willing. So I'm going to be holding up. We do have a great advertiser with our company that so I'd like to hold up, and because we haven't plugged them at all during.
All
the
right,
show
let's
right
plug
now.
them.
So I'm gonna
Cannabis
hold up
energy
the
drink.
thing, Cannabis energy drink. So if Chris can make sure that's on there real quick.
There you go. Cannabis energy. Let's just say this: it's an awesome beverage. If you guys like Red Bull, it's time to make the switch over to cannabis energy. It's, first of all, it tastes better, it's smoother, and we are batting 1,000 when we've done blind taste tests with bartenders, anybody who drinks Red Bull. They do a blind taste test between that and cannabis energy drink, and like, oh my God, this is so much better. So already on taste it wins. But the other thing that's great about it is, first of all, it's from Rotterdam. It's from the Amsterdam area, and cannabis. They call everything cannabis in Europe. It's actually made from hemp. It is non-medicated, but it is made from hemp seed oil in there. 50 milligrams of it in every can, and some of the proceeds from every can that is purchased of this cannabis energy drink goes towards the legalization and the support for legalization of hemp agriculture in the United States.
Yep, nationally. So. And this is a program we're helping the company put into place because they just now launched in the United States.
Yep.
First in Wisconsin, which is a non-medical marijuana state.
Yeah, they're doing
and
well.
Then the person that got distribution rights from North America actually met with him this afternoon. And the great thing about the company is they're so willing to listen. So if anybody in the industry has an idea, or if attorneys have ideas on how we can really progress this, the company is willing to sit down and say, okay, how can we do this? This is not just a product that we're selling. This happens to be a great product that when it's sold, proceeds go to help advancing a cause.
Yep.
And we can get into it and preach over and over and over about how important it is for the hemp industry in America and let these farmers grow this product, but that's not today's show. But just wanted to throw a shout out real quick to Cannabis Energy Drink. And thank you for everything that you guys are doing.
So one of the things we've learned today is we have about 20 shows lined up for us now already, just from today. We do have to go for a break right now. So again, we want to thank Sean Hauser. We're going to close out. And again, talk about what I really wanted to talk about today, other than what the great subject of PTSD and everything else, and talk about hemp in the home. So we'll be back in just a moment.
The law offices of Edson, Maton, and Matz provide criminal defense, medical marijuana defense, and advice about setting up and running medical marijuana centers, optional premises cultivation operations, and infused product manufacturing businesses throughout Colorado. With offices in Denver and Aspen, we can offer assistance throughout the entire state of Colorado. Give us a call at 303-831-8188. That's 303-831-8188. Or visit us online at warrenedson.com.
Dixie Elixirs and Edibles, the patient's choice for alternative medical marijuana treatment. Dixie Elixirs infuse sparkling beverages, Dixie Edibles, dewdrops, tonics, and Dixie Scripts extraordinarily concentrated cannabis extract capsules, along with Dixie Botanicals, all-natural topical therapy. All of these medicinal remedies are available at your local medical marijuana center. Like us on Facebook, Dixie Elixirs, or join us at www.dixieelixirs.com.
The Hemp Connoisseur is Colorado's premier guide to hemp culture. Our mission is to elevate the image of the medical cannabis and hemp industries to create widespread acceptance of the cannabis sativa plant. You can find the latest issue of the Hemp Connoisseur at more than 200 7-Elevens, your favorite dispensary, MMJ doctor offices, and tattered covered bookstores. Do you consider yourself a cannabis connoisseur? Then come be a part of the Hemp Connoisseur's first cannabis championship. Visit us at thcmag.com for info on how to sample the best medicine Colorado has to offer.
You're listening to Hemp Connoisseur Radio on iCannabisRadio.com.
All right, we're back. We were just saying goodbye to Sean. Thank you so much for coming in, Sean. You were awesome. We're definitely going to have Sean back on because she's got some serious expertise, and she really knows what she's talking about. And we really love having experts like that on the Hemp Connoisseur Radio. So we actually went really long on that last segment because, we like to talk.
That's what we do.
That's what we do. So what I want to talk about right now, because, again, we always have to talk about the usages of hemp. And so one of my favorite products that I have not had a chance to take advantage of yet, but I can't wait. When it comes time, I'm buying a lot of land, Jason. And
I have land, Dave.
I know. I don't want to.
Let's build something.
I want it on my land. I want my land.
I'll let you visit.
Thanks. I appreciate that. And we're going to build a hemp house.
Sweet.
And
let's do something small first, though.
You want just a hemp outhouse?
Dude, we could build a hemp outhouse. I bet it'd make news and everything on my property for sure.
We'll build one on your property just as a tester. We'll test it out.
Done.
Because you can make your own hempcrete. Now, if you grew your own hemp, if you were allowed to grow your own hemp, you could literally make
Yes,
your
on
own,
64.
Yes, on 60. Yeah, you could literally make your own hempcrete. Now, there are companies out there that have obviously gotten this down to a science. American Lime Technologies would be the big company that comes to mind.
We've done a story on them before.
We did. In fact, we had a great loss in the hemp industry recently. David Madeira, who was one of the owners and founders of American Lime Technologies, did just recently pass away. Great. So I just want to give a shout out to his family and send our condolences from the Hemp Connoisseur. Really great activist when it comes to it. And a lot of the information I'm going to give you is actually straight from American Lime Tech's website. So if you ever want to check this out, you can go to American Lime Tech. Tech is spelled TEC.com. So again, that's American Lime Tech, spelled TEC.com. So let's just give you a little background on hempcrete. Okay, hempcrete is a mixture of hemp herds, which are also known as chives, and lime, possibly including natural hydraulic lime. It has sand, pozzolans, I have no idea what that is, or cement.
Chris is looking it up now, so we're
thanks.
good.
He's all over it. So it's used as a material for construction and insulation. Its marketing names are like hemcrete, which is what American Lime Technologies makes, is hemcrete, Canabiote, Canosmos. Okay, they need to come up with some better names. Let me just say that right now. And
we'll write him an email. We'll come up with some
Isochanvre. I think that's definitely
That actually
foreign.
sounds like a gun or something like
It
that.
does, yeah.
You know?
Okay.
The Chanvre.
All right, back to the. Good. You can tell it's late in the day. We're already getting punchy. So hempcrete is easier to work with than traditional lime mixes and acts as an insulator, and it also acts as a moisture regulator. It lacks the brittleness of concrete, and it consequently does not need expansion joints. However, so that's kind of a quick basis on it. Well, let me talk about some of the benefits of hempcrete. And this is straight off of AmericanLimeTech.com. Traditional hempcrete absorbs carbon dioxide in its creation.
Yep.
Crazy. So hempcrete is unique, and this is hempcrete. They call it hempcrete at American Lime Technologies. Is unique because the CO2 absorbed in the growing of the hemp more than offsets the CO2 produced in the manufacture of the binder. So indeed, during the life cycle of calcium hydrate, which is lime, the main constituent of the binder in hempcrete is that a large portion of the CO2 emitted in manufacture is reabsorbed as it cures and reverts back to limestone.
Nice.
Crazy. So you're already creating a carbon neutral. In fact, you're actually creating a negative carbon footprint by utilizing hempcrete. Independent studies have shown that for 300 millimeter wall, hempcrete locks up around 40 kilograms of carbon dioxide.
How thick is...
For 300 millimeters?
Yeah.
That's a weird measurement, don't you think? I mean,
Chris is actually going to get us the answer.
Chris
on
is
that.
all over that.
Yep. We keep saying that, but he
I
just
know.
keeps laughing at us.
I
Come
know,
on, man.
I know. He's like, I really do.
Open up another tab on there.
We do live in a world where we don't deal with the metric society in the United States, and so I have to say I'm metrically ignorant.
If I had my ruler, it'd be like...
You'd had your ruler, but a 300 millimeter wall, let's just say probably your typical size wall. I'm assuming that's what they're using. So hempcrete locks up around 40 kilograms of carbon dioxide for every millimeter of that wall. Whereas a typical brick and block cavity wall will create in its manufacture around 100 kilograms of CO2 per every meter of the wall. So you're talking about a 140 kilogram swing from manufacturing regular cement to manufacturing the hempcrete on the other way, in the positive way, as far as being carbon neutral. So already just the production of it alone makes it exciting.
Now, during the production, though, does it actually bring down the Earth's temperature?
Well, when you can make that argument, because when you talk about the production, you're talking about the manufacturing, you're talking about the growing of the hemp.
Which does.
Which absolutely does. So again, you're having so many benefits from growing the hemp plant, and then of course you have the benefits from what that hemp plant is being grown for. So the net benefit of using hempcrete over traditional wall construction is around 140 kilograms per meter of wall. Or, okay, I don't even know what that means, so I'm not going to say it. So this can reduce the embodied carbon dioxide emitted in the construction of the house by as much as 40%. So just reducing your carbon footprint by 40% just by making a house with hempcrete is a huge deduction in your carbon footprint. And that's something a lot of people don't realize. I mean, usually when you talk about greenhouse gases, you talk about climate change, global warming, whatever terminology makes you comfortable. Everyone thinks about cars. Everyone thinks, oh, it's my car that's polluting.
Right.
And it is. I'm not saying it doesn't. Obviously we want cleaner burning energy and fuel for the cars as well. But actually, it's your house that actually emits more waste than anything else. And so if you're able to...
But it also self-regulating as far as temperature goes.
It is, and I'm going to get into that, actually.
However, we have an answer. Chris actually found us. He found us the first answer.
Awesome. All right. See, he doesn't even know this is going to be his new job. So one thing I do want to say before we move on to that is the reduction can be increased even further if you utilize hempcrete as insulation in your floors and roof.
Nice.
So this is just that first number was just on doing it in the walls, but now you're talking about we can make our floor from this, and then we can also do it, utilize it for.
Imagine for a minute how much hemp would be needed to make the bricks for your house, the insulation for your house. I mean, just imagine.
Not as much as you'd think. That's what's amazing.
No, but multiply that by millions and millions of houses that are being built.
Exactly.
That is job security for farmers.
That is job security for farmers.
Yes, on 64.
Yes. Yeah, you'll hear that a lot.
Yep.
It is job security for farmers, and I think that's a huge point to make. I mean, I know we're running low on time, so we don't have too much time left. We actually have 2 minutes left. I just another point as to why hemp is an amazing product, and from the growing of the hemp plant for what it does, for what the actual plant does in the soil, and we've talked about that before, and of course we're going to talk about it again because we're never going to get tired of talking about this. But then talking about such a real world usage. I mean, now imagine if our government decided to subsidize hemp growth like we do corn. Imagine if they said, every house from now on needs to have a negative carbon imprint or a carbon neutral footprint.
Obama's already going toward not towards that, but I'm saying as far as like gasoline and stuff like that with the changing of the vehicles.
He is.
So
he is. But again, we just said
not be long.
Vehicles are not actually the principal use of pollution. Now we always talk about new construction when it comes to the housing markets. What's the new construction on? How many people are buying old houses? How many people are buying new houses? What if we started making regulations where you get amazing tax breaks for building hemp houses, or we subsidize it to a point? And I'm not saying I'm a big fan of subsidies, huge subsidies, but if we're going to subsidize corn, let's take the money we're subsidizing corn, which is poisoning us with high fructose corn syrup and making a really inefficient biodiesel with ethanol, and actually turn that to hemp, and now say, imagine every house has to be built with hempcrete. Now you're making those houses better on insulation. They're saving on energy costs because you have a better insulation, and it's soaking up carbon dioxide at the same time, so you're reducing your carbon footprint as a society.
Well, how thick is a wall to a house? Typically, would you say?
Usually what?
Probably a carpenter would have a really good idea. I don't, but
I would say a wall is about a foot. Right about a foot.
Well, I would probably disagree with that. I'd probably say
interior, exterior wall.
Well, exterior wall.
No, of course, we're talking about exterior. I'd say maybe a little bit.
I'd say half a foot. I was.
It's
Well, you have the framing.
It's got to be at least 8 inches. I'm saying it's got to be at least 8 inches with a frame. You have the outside, the exterior wall, and then the interior wall. There's got.
Well, what did that number come out to, Chris? As far as
it was almost a foot. 300 millimeters is about 11.81 inches.
There you go.
Nice.
So that's a wall, a typical
wall.
wall.
If that is a thicker wall, then it would potentially take less to go ahead and regulate that house.
Yep.
Just naturally, regardless if it's hemp or not.
And hemp is also, we mentioned earlier, it's a moisture regulator. So
That's true.
It makes a big difference as to not just the insulation of your house, but it keeps mold out. So it actually is a mold-proof product.
Well, and also keeps bugs.
It is pesticide resistant. So it keeps, but you're not going to have to worry about termites or anything like that or carpenter ants. It actually eliminates all of those things.
Right.
So now you're talking about saving money on that. Sorry for all those exterminators out there. There's plenty of old houses. You'll still have jobs. But I mean, if we're talking about moving into the future and creating a better infrastructure for society, I think that part of that infrastructure goes into what are we doing for how we're making a better house.
Yep.
And I think one of the major gateways to doing that is by utilizing hemp to do that. And, hempcrete is a perfect, substance. We can be making roads. We can be making bridges out of this product. There's...
Dave?
Yeah.
We can go on for hours.
Yeah, I know.
And we can definitely continue this because I love, and I talk, Dave and I ride around just doing some of our other business stuff, but I mean, I look at, like, going to New York, going to Denver, like, I'm so amazed at what the human hands can build.
It is.
And if it can
We were
be
talking
built
about that
off
today.
of a natural product like this, it's just like, oh my God. Like, it's just unbelievable. I'm very fascinated by that because
I am
it's
too.
incredible. So,
I am too.
But definitely want to thank Chris for helping us out, getting one answer out of two that we asked him
Thank you,
about.
Chris.
We'll be writing him up
deducting-
afterwards.
We're going to write him up from that, and we're going to deduct half of his pay, so he only loses 50 cents today.
Yep.
And
We're paying him 50 cents. 50 cents today?
Yeah, we are. We're paying.
I
50
thought it was
cents.
less, but all right, that's cool. You got a raise. Congratulations.
Well, I was
buddy.
standing outside in the corner with a cardboard box today, just trying to get money for our
yeah.
producer. Yeah.
Money for producer. Here you go.
So, look, we had a great show today. Again, I want to thank Sean Hauser for joining us today. She's not here, but let me tell you, she's awesome. We're really proud to have somebody of her caliber on the show, and we look forward to having her on again. Thank you again to our awesome producer, Chris, who is going to deal with us busting on him every show because that's what he does.
Yep.
And
I think we should make Chris a little bit more part of the show. I think, instead of him over there playing solitaire or whatever he does during the whole thing, we'll get him working a little bit more. How's that?
Yeah. He was looking at like celebrities and
Wasn't it like the
the E channel.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm worried about him. I'm really worried. He has a microphone. He's afraid to use it. So at some point, we are going to ask Chris to be a little bit more a part of the show, and we just decided that was an executive decision we just made right here in the middle of the show. So
And if not, we'll get somebody else.
That sounds good. That sounds good.
Oh, there he is. There he is. Welcome. All right. Well, as always, I'm David.
I'm Jason.
And
I'm Chris.
There you go.
thank you so much for listening to Hemp Connoisseur Radio.
Peace
Love
and hempiness.
All right.